Entrepreneurial leadership requires the ability to move quickly when the opportunity presents itself. Brian Tracy said that once. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, episode 45, Lessons from an Entrepreneur Leader with Johnathan Grzybowski. Hey everybody, it's your host and founder of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. This is Scott McCarthy. Welcome to the, as far as I'm concerned, best podcast out there to develop your leadership skills. And it doesn't matter what you do in life. You could be in small business, big business. You could be working at not-for-profit. You could be working in government. You could be a stay-at-home parent. Doesn't matter, right? We all need leadership in our lives. And this podcast is designed for that one sole purpose, to make you a better leader. If this is your first time listening in, well, welcome. Welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership family and team. It's great to have you on. For those that have been listening for quite some time now, welcome back. It's another great show. Before I dive into introducing my guest today, just want to take a quick moment and announce our first ever sponsor here at the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, and that is Penji. Penji is a graphic design company where you can get unlimited graphic designs for a low $349 a month. And they do everything from banners to pamphlets to giveaways, online giveaways, and I believe even web pages now. Penji does it all for you. And for just $349 a month, you can be getting yours done by them as well. If you check out the Moving Forward Leadership banners, the new style ones where you have pictures, a couple pictures of me, one in a suit and tie and the other one in my actual full, what we refer to as full fighting order, i.e. all my equipment, military equipment. That one was developed by the crew over there at Penji, and it's a heck of an awesome job. Absolutely blew my mind away when I got that final production. Those guys were awesome. You know, they quick turnaround, great communication when I had questions or they wanted some clarification, and bam, product was done. So go over, check them out at penji.co, and let me know. So if you stick around, there's going to be a coupon code for everybody at the end of the episode because Johnathan, my guest, is one of the co-founders of Penji. Now, keep in mind, we're actually going to be talking a bit about Penji, but it's not going to be the whole episode will be revolving around it. Johnathan's got a lot of different experiences as an entrepreneur and also working in some big businesses. And we talk about his experience working at Apple and the lessons that he brought from there. As well, you'll learn about his vision for Penji and how it's actually being a socially responsible company. And it's pretty incredible if you think about it. I won't take away too much of the thunder from the episode, but it's really neat to see a young entrepreneur, co-founder, being socially responsible with his business. So those are the types of topics we dive into today. The show notes for today, if you just go to movingforwardleadership.com/45, that will bring you to the show notes for today's episode. Okay, folks? So sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Johnathan talking about lessons as an entrepreneurial leader. Johnathan, man, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here. Honored to be on the show. It's time to get started.
Awesome. So you've listened to my show before, so you know how I like to start it off. I don't usually ask, where to go to eat after a great day like you start your show off. But, just a bit about yourself, a bit about your background, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that I am a rogue entrepreneur, a rogue individual who has always been told that he either can't do something or shouldn't do something, and always found a way to make it work. And I'm sure that's like a very typical entrepreneur story at this point now. But I'd say that I got the entrepreneur bug at a very young age, mowing lawns, and maintained the hustle, loved the money that was coming in, spent all my money at 14 on Pokemon cards and junior bacon cheeseburgers. which I haven't had a junior bacon cheeseburger in probably like 3-4 years now, but that's another conversation for a different podcast. But,
more of a health and fitness podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But after growing and getting that bug, my mom told me that I had to go out and get a real job, and I always thought to myself, like, what do you mean? Why do I have to get a real job? I'm doing what I love. I'm doing something that doesn't confine me into this 9-to-5 lifestyle. And so I ended up listening to my mom, as any good son would do, and got a job at a pretty small company called Apple, and learned a lot of things during my time at Apple. And I'd say like the two things that kind of stuck with me during that time period is my upbringing was I grew up in a relatively very interesting neighborhood in Northeast Philadelphia, and it taught me the combination of my neighborhood and the combination of my first entrepreneurship journey. It taught me how to work really, really hard. Long hours. It built that work ethic. My time at Apple taught me about the company culture, about how to run a business. What's it like to run an organization with more than one person? So the culture side of it came from Apple. And then one day I ended up becoming, well, not one day, but a period of a year or several months, I became depressed and I knew what I had to do, but I was always afraid to do it. And so that was to quit my job, because I knew that I wasn't happy and I needed to try and fulfill myself and my life. And I lost a lot of friends because of it, but I ended up putting my 2 weeks in. My manager at the time told me, well, how about you just leave today? It was kind of a culture shock because, yeah, exactly. It was a culture shock for me because I planned the next 2 weeks of my life to every hour of the day to go out and hustle to get sales for another business that I started during that time period, and that was a social media company. So I had to go out and hustle, work my butt off, and get sales. I didn't get my first sale until 3 months after I quit my job at Apple. Fast forward to 5 years. 5 years from there, I've ran several businesses, failed a ton of times. But it wasn't until on October 20th, 2017 was when I don't know if you want to say aha moment came about. And that was when I went to an event in Camden, New Jersey, which is where I currently live and where we've been for the past 4 years. And if you don't know anything about Camden, I highly recommend you doing your research and Googling it. It's been known at one point in time as the most dangerous city in America. It's been a city plagued by a lot of negativity, but it's rising as we speak. And I was asked by the press, and the question between myself and my now co-founder, they asked us, they said, what are you doing for the city of Camden? And are you hiring people in the city of Camden? And we answered the questions, and we both looked at each other and we were like, the answer is no, we're not doing any of those. So, which is bad because we've been here for so long and we're not hiring in the city. So the next day we launched Penji, which is what I'm going to be talking about with you today. And it's an unlimited graphic design service, all at one flat monthly rate. And we do all of it while hiring inner city youth, residents, students in the city of Camden. There's $2.2 billion in revitalization happening in the city. And there's a lot of businesses coming here. And so what we want to do is we want to be the startup or the business that may not have all the resources or the money that these big giants that are coming in, but we still want to be able to do our part by being socially conscious and giving back to our community. And I can explain how we do it, and I'm sure in the future in other questions in the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a few questions running through my mind because that's some definitely interesting tidbits that I didn't know about Penji, and you allow me to poke around and check out your service and stuff. That's not something that I clued into. So definitely got a few questions, but I kind of want to loop back first and let's go back to your life of working in Apple, if that doesn't bring up too much emotional scars or anything.
I'll only cry a little.
Because I've heard stories, right? But, can you talk a bit about, because there's lots of rumors, lots of stories out there from people who haven't obviously worked in the company. But can you just talk a bit about, what life was like working in that, such a massive company, both in size and reach and, influence and sales? It's incredible, for a guy who's anti-Apple, I'll fully admit it.
Sure. I'm going through that too, even though I was a part of the company. So.
And probably the most important part of that is what you learned about company culture during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think looking back at it now is a little bit interesting, because I think when you work for Apple, you work solely for the company, right?
Yeah,
and you really die for that company, because it's backed by fantastic products and a quality that needs to be upheld, and it has the stigma of like a mystery behind the name. So I want to answer the question first by saying what I learned today, and then I'll answer the question to what I learned from company culture. I learn now that your startup or your business is nowhere near or will never be close to an Apple. People don't necessarily work for the big name with your startup. They don't work for the big name. You don't have that big name as a startup. You are literally just a startup. You're literally just a business. So you have to be a little creative in order to find ways to get people to work for you and work on your journey and work on your dream. So I think Apple has the luxury of finding quality talent and having them bleed and live for the company and stand for the company and be advocates for the company. So that was the major thing that I've learned is how can you treat and train, I wouldn't say train, I think that's a negative word, but how can you educate your staff to have a similar mindset, but not necessarily for the company, but for you as the leader, or if you're not the leader, whoever the leader is in the organization. So that was the thing that I've learned, and it kind of hit me the other day. That's why I tell that story.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the aspect of company culture, everything had a purpose. Everything had a reason. Everything was accounted for. They were a data-driven company. They worked on numbers. They had a very creative company culture that invited people to interact with one another and participate and collaborate and share ideas and best practices. But the most important thing that I've learned was the sense of what is a thing called fearless feedback that we instill to this day at Penji to some degree. Whereas if somebody's having an issue with somebody else in the company, or they're not getting along, we need to find a way to hear these conversations and talk about it. And so that is probably the most important things that I've learned, is just like the process of how a successful business works, and seeing it firsthand. It's a much different story than just reading about it in the papers or reading about it in national publications like most of us have been able to do.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Like, seeing is believing, and you're in there as being a part of it. And it's definitely such a large corporation with, definitely a vision, right? And I can see how everybody's like, has to be completely laser focused on the vision. I like that whole fearless feedback thing. And it's so true. Like, people just need to get along, and we have to acknowledge that, personality types clash, and everybody has their own type of personality and stuff like this. But at the end of the day, if, we may not like each other. We may want to, if we're outside, tear each other's eyes out. But when you're at the workplace, you got to figure out a way to actually get along and get the job done, right? And
yep.
Yeah, I deal with that more than what people would actually believe.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine what you have to go through.
So,
especially with ego, that's another thing too.
Ego, I have no time for it. Like,
yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. No, do not show up to me with an ego, because I will burst that thing so quick.
Right.
Because we don't have time for it. We don't have the ability for people to have egos, despite Yeah, I'm not saying that people don't have egos. Yes, people have egos in the military. And some people have really big ones, but if you're working for me, don't have one because we just don't have time for it. We don't have the ability to cater to the needs of someone who's egocentric and ultimately you're potentially risking, your comrades' lives because your ego is so high. So
yeah, and that happens far too often in small business too. The aspect of ego, and once somebody's ego is scratched or just poked at,
they deflate.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's interesting to see that, and I think that's something that I'm personally constantly cognizant of and thinking about is how to break down those barriers, and also even though you're the co-founder or quote unquote one of the leaders in the organization, your ego needs to be the smallest, if not non-existent as well, because a lot of people, you feel as if that you're bigger than the company and you're bigger than everybody else. And I've this past year, I can say that I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting and thinking to myself about like, I'm not bigger than anybody and I'm not bigger than the company, especially. The company is always bigger than everybody else. And we all have to get on the same train and we have to be able to work together, the same boat, and move the oars along in order to move the business and the sales and everything else forward.
Yeah, for sure. Humility is a cornerstone of leadership, man. I can't say it enough, and more people need to hear that, learn it, and suck it in. What I'd like to ask you now is, what were some of the key lessons you took from Apple? I think you kind of skimmed over it, but if you really reflected, what were some of those key lessons you took from your experience working there to eventually Penji?
I'd say it's not like a direct interpretation, but something that I think a hard thing to do is to find or read something or experience something and then be able to translate that exact same thing into your business and hope that it works.
Yep, for sure.
And so what we've learned is that it doesn't. So, you can try to do things like what they do is they have like morning powwows and then closing powwows to kind of recap the day. And that kind of worked, but not really. So what we did is we kind of took the aspect of like, well, how can we all be on the same page and how can everybody be made aware of what is going on throughout the day? And I think that's like the core thing that we've learned, that I've learned at least, was being able to look on a daily basis, to be able to look at one sheet and to know what everybody is doing and how they're doing it. What we did with Penji is that we created a system for accountability. And the accountability system that we inevitably created was a to-do list. And we call it a connect, like a way for us to connect. And what we do every single day is as soon as we walk into the office, we write down, we clock in, and we write down all the things that we need to get done in that day. And each task, each task that we set for ourselves and our day is timed. And each time has a certain point system associated with it. And this was like a custom thing that we did, but we started off with Trello, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Trello.
So we started with Trello and we had like all the tasks, the checklist and things like that. And then we would like tally it up and then point system, et cetera, and move it along. And then the next day we would do another checklist, and the next day. And then we were like, screw it. We're developers, and we're designers. We could do this ourselves. So we created our own little system, but it could be transferable to any company, regardless of the technology that they have. You go onto a checklist, you create the top 5 things or 10 things that you need to get done, write a timestamp next to it, and see how much it tallies. If it tallies more than less than 5.5 hours, you're not doing enough in your day. If it tallies more than 5.5 hours, then you need to be able to hunker down and get all of it done. And at the end of the day, if you don't get some of it done, then you need to have a conversation with somebody. If you're a solopreneur, you need to have a conversation and find an accountability partner. Or if you're in a business owner that has employees, you need to have a conversation with all of your employees to find out what were the things that they did in that day and did they accomplish everything by the end of the week. And if they didn't, then you need to have a conversation with them to find out why. And you need to find a way within yourself as a leader to be able to help support them and give them the proper resources in order for them to do their job. Or if they don't do their job, then you need to find a way that you can find out that you may not have the right employee that's to move your business forward.
That's definitely the ultimate end game, right?
Exactly. So the accountability system that we created was not necessarily a direct correlation from Apple, but it was definitely inspired. The process was inspired by it.
Oh, I love it. I think that's awesome. For multiple reasons. One is the whole accountability piece, and just making sure people know. And I don't mean that in a negative context here, but just make sure that you have somebody you go to and say, "Yep, I got this done, that done, or whatever," exactly. And I haven't got these things done, and it kind of just keeps people's mind in check. Like, oh, I got these tasks I need to complete, and hammer at them by surfing Facebook or something like that. But as well, the negative connotation of it, oh, you're not doing your job type thing, and mm-hmm. we need to fix that. Mm-hmm. As well, it's really neat because you probably have a good idea of what you spend your time at in a given day, right?
Exactly.
And then you can eliminate the wasted time, because time is the number one thing, and you're no way in hell you're getting more of it, right?
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, if you find a good accountability partner and you're a solopreneur, they need to know your goals. But if you are a business owner, a startup founder, or whatever, and you have employees and you have a team, then you need to be able to set their goals as well. So what we found is that some employees and some team, we don't really call them employees, we like to say team members, because we're all trying to be team members going towards a common goal. But our team members, sometimes people put tasks, like very small tasks, and they say that it can be done in 30 minutes, but it could probably be done in 5, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they put something on their goal list that just simply isn't something that they should be doing because it's grunt work and it's the crap that nobody really wants to do. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to focus on sales. Everybody wants to just do the fun things that doesn't require a lot of brain power, et cetera. So as the leader or the potential accountability partner, you need to be able to change that if you see it. Like, you are the quarterback. You need to be able to change that and give that person a weekly goal. And if they don't commit to that weekly goal, like, for example, we have a press team, a marketing team, like a social team, sales team, design team, and we can do something like get 10 press releases or get 10 press opportunities, podcasts like this, a week. And if you get 3, well, what did you do to get 3? If you get 10, 12, et cetera, those are the types of things that you need to be thinking about as a business or founder, solopreneur, et cetera.
No, that's really, definitely a lot of good points in there. And God, I had something in my mind, but I lost it now.
It's all good.
It's all good. So you were talking about, in the beginning there, you left Apple and you started companies eventually, and then you eventually end up starting Penji. And you mentioned that there were some challenges along that route. What were some of those challenges, and most importantly, what were the lessons you learned from them?
So I'll give you a personal story that doesn't necessarily relate to what the business stood for. But we were a design agency for pretty much 5 years. And we had marketing clients. We did apps. We created websites. I mean, we pretty much did anything you could possibly think of. We worked with a lot of incredible clients, universities, big businesses, Fortune 500s, et cetera, Inc. 1000, Inc. 5000. And so what we learned was the agency lifestyle didn't fit our personalities. That was number one. Number two, we were a very transactional business in a service world. So it was as if that you were to go to Target and put your buy a bag of chips, and you take the bag of chips and you ask the cashier and say, here you go, this is what I want. And they give you the money, you give them money, they give you the money back, and then it's done, you walk away. whereas the service industry, you should be nurturing your clients, talking to them, et cetera.
Yeah.
We did a good job of that, but we didn't do a great job of it. And so we grew, but then as we grew, it just didn't necessarily work out the way that we would want it to. So what we did was we always felt as if that we needed to do more as a business, but we also needed to do more as a socially conscious organization, because myself, I care greatly about the entrepreneurship community, and also the diversity when it comes to businesses, business owners, the people that should be in your team. And then my co-founder has an economic development organization that involves a lot of what Camden is doing, the revitalization of our community. So I'm going to tell the story and tell you why it's important and how you can implement it within your own business, so people can relate it and do the same things that we're doing. We felt as if that there's an opportunity that within our city to make a mark and make an impact, to grow a sizable community of champions that knows who we are, knows what we do, and knows what we stand for. And that's what we did when it comes to Penji. So as stated, we went to an event. We were asked a question. We didn't know. We weren't hiring in the city. And so what we did was, the minute that we became more socially conscious, the minute business, press, our community, and genuinely people gave a crap about us. Not once did anybody ever want to talk about or talk to a design company. Not once did anybody ever want to talk about an organization that makes websites. But what people wanted to start talking about was an organization that not only did design, but also hired within the city and cared about students and cared about the livelihood of the people that they surround themselves with. And I'm not going to say that that fits every organization, because it most definitely does not. It doesn't fit a lot of people's personalities, but it worked really well for us given our background. And the minute that we switched that mindset and we became a socially conscious organization, the minute that more doors opened up for us, because we were able to talk to more people, and people wanted to in turn talk to us. So here's how we got the proverbial first 100 customers to some degree. We reached out to our social media community. We asked them and surveyed them, if we build this, will you buy it? We offered a crazy discount for people that are for nonprofits that are in the city of Camden, an absurd discount. And that was the base of people that believed in us, that wanted to be a part of our community and wanted to learn more. And then it just kind of blossomed and trickled out that way. I'm pointing because we're talking video, but I just realized people aren't going to be able to physically see this. So it's just, think of the word of mouth and just it growing rapidly. Yeah. And then because of that same thing, a lot of press started writing about us, and then we started getting on publications, and publications generally cared about all the things that we were doing. And because of all those things, among many, many other things, we were able since February, we were able to hire five professionals, either students or residents of Camden, in the year. And we're more than likely going to be hiring another 3, hopefully by the end of the month.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, once you go down the social responsibility route, and I think what I'm hearing from you is I think during my MBA, I did a full course on social responsibility, and it came up so often. But ultimately, companies, organizations, it doesn't matter, business, not business, you just kind of need to find your way of being social responsible. And then from there, you will start seeing, the fruits of that labor. Mm-hmm. And for you guys, it's definitely been, reaching out and helping these students. So let's talk a bit about that in detail. And, how are you using social responsibility of hiring inner city students as employees? How does that process work for you guys? And what benefits have you? Obviously, you've talked about some of the benefits, but are there other benefits that you didn't hit on with using this model?
Yeah. So I guess the one thing that the overarching theme that we came up with, that we saw in our city, was the amount of revitalization that's happening here in the city. Estimated, there's $2.2 billion being spread throughout the city of Camden. And organizations are coming here and people are reading about it, and people genuinely have an interest in coming into the city. And these businesses that are coming into the city have a social responsibility to hire people of Camden. And some of them are doing it a lot better than others. And so what if an organization that has zero outside funding, we're cash flow positive, we never received an ounce of funding, what if a small business were to focus all of its energy to hire people that are in the city, to grow the economy within the city itself? What would that look like to the organizations that are making 4 times, 10 times, 100 times more than a startup that we do? And so what we want to do is we want to change the mindset of what a successful business looks like in the world. You don't have to go to California and San Francisco to be successful, to get the resources that you need. You don't have to go to Philadelphia, even though it's right over the bridge. You don't have to be in New York. You could do it in the backyard of your house. And the people that are there, that are living in the city, they don't have to go to a big city in order to feel successful. They could still be successful in their own homes and go to work the same way that they do in the city that they grew up in. So that's something that's been really important to us, is just staying true to that mission and not deviating from it by any means.
Yeah, no, it's I could definitely see some benefits there for sure, man. So what would you say your leadership style that you use within your company, Penji, would be, and how is that leading to your guys' success?
Well, I'll be honest in saying that my leadership is probably the most important thing that I need to work on as a leader in the company. I can say that it is not as strong as I would want it to be. I think that at times I have the millennial syndrome, where everything is cool and everything is here. Everything is like on a straight line. And there's no hierarchy, so to speak. And that was a learning curve in itself, was finding out the importance of some type of hierarchy and accountability. So I can say the leadership angle is something that is constantly getting better at. And I'm trying to read as many books and talk to as many people as possible. But I'll give some tidbits of information that we all have learned that has allowed us to become successful. Regardless of the leadership style, if people do not understand the business, and if they don't understand the goals of the company, then your entire team will be lost, and they will be swimming countlessly in order to figure it out, so to speak. And then you're going to find a way to get really pissed off at these people that you're paying for, that you're paying to do a job, because they're not doing it the way that you set it out to be. I would argue that you need to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that if somebody's not doing their job, it's your own fault and your damn fault for explaining it incorrectly. So I would put all the emphasis, as a leader, I would put all emphasis on you, and it is always your fault, even when deep down inside it may not be. It's your fault at all times, because you're in the position that you want to be in, and you made yourself into this position. So all fault is definitely, most certainly on you. I think transparency is really important. Being transparent and telling 100%. People where you're at in the business. Whether you got a customer, we celebrate every single customer that comes in, even if it's a small customer, a big customer, it doesn't matter. They're all customers. So we celebrate that. So people are very transparent. We're a very transparent company. We have our customer count on our website, so we're not hiding anything from anybody. And we also tell it to our team as well, how many customers that we have. So transparency is important, but I also want to say one last thing, and it's the ability to maintain focus. Focus is one of the hardest things that you could possibly do as a human being and as a business owner. And if you can find a way to cut out all the crap that doesn't matter and focus on that one initiative together, no matter how big or how small your team is, that's going to bring everybody to the success you want your business to become. And it took a long time in order for us to get there, and it's still not entirely there. But we use some creative techniques and strategies to get every single person on the same page. And the one thing that we focused on as an entire company, regardless if they're a developer and they are quote unquote socially awkward, or they're a designer and they're quote unquote creative, or a marketer, whatever it is, every single person in the company is pushing for sales and trying to get a sale. Even if it's with a referral as an existing customer, or a new customer that's coming in via an ad or social content or a blog or whatever it may be, everybody's focused on moving the company forward via sales.
There's some serious, go shave and come back and it'll look like I'm looking at the mirror, man. No, you're talking about how you need to learn more and stuff like that. And that's, step one of leadership, admitting that you don't know everything. And guess what? We never all know everything. And even guys like, serious guys like John Maxwell out there, and former commanders of the Canadian Army, General Hillier, and they all admit, no, I don't know it all. and I don't know it all. And yeah, I've been in this gig for 20 odd years now. And it's no, I don't know it all. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I've even started this podcast is because I can learn more from interviewing people. Right. And I have. So, humility to say that is key. And I love what you're saying that, if things mess up, it's your fault as the leader. And I always say, failure is the leader's response is because of a leader, and success is always because of their people. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's so true. And you see it all the time because there could have been something you could have done. You could have provided a clear direction. You could have, enabled an environment to allow people to come question. You could have, gotten more training for your people. You could have done so many things, but you didn't. And now you guys failed. Now you have to pick up the mess. So now there's so many truths in there, and transparency is absolutely key. We have yearly training that we have to complete every year. And it's the same thing. And, after you've been in the Army for 20 years, it kind of gets mundane, right? Mm-hmm. You're oh, here we go again. Got to do this. We refer to as IBTS training. Anyway, and every week I get a list of names who don't have it done yet for this year. And there's a couple of things where I'm not done. And I fully admit, I will point out, okay, and we got 20 guys who haven't done this. I'm yep. And I'm at the top of the list. And it's just, it's just that transparency factor. And it's yep. And I'm getting it done on such and such a date. Yeah. Right. So that, I'm not hiding the fact that I am no better than anybody else in my squadron. And yes, I know I need to get this done, and I'm going to do it. Yeah. So it's so key. And honestly, I don't think we could get ready to wrap this show up on a better note than something like that. But I do before we do close up here, I do got one last question, which I ask all my guests. And for you, what makes a great leader?
What makes a great leader is an individual who is humble, who understands that they're always wrong to some degree and admit fault. I think it's an individual. I think leaders come in several ways. And I think the most important, one of the best qualities in a leader is the understanding of being patient. Yeah. And being able to put themselves in really, really awkward situations, even though that the odds may be stacked against them. And I can just give personal stories in that aspect is sometimes you also need to have conversations with people that you don't get along with, and find a way to understand them. I think I'm trying to come up with a more refined answer, but I think here it is after talking for a couple of 30 seconds. So if you could forget the past 30 seconds, that's fine. Just focus on this. Understand the people that you're working with. Understand how they tick, how they operate, and most importantly, what they want. And if you can find out what that person wants out of life, then you will be able to have the key to their heart for the end of time. And I think a good leader understands people and is conscious enough to ask the right questions to get to know the person that is focusing on their dream. And it goes back to ego, and it also goes back to just being selfish. A lot of people are selfish, and a lot of people are egotistical. So put your love of the business aside, because no one will ever work as hard as you. But if you can understand the people that you've hired, not just for their skills as a professional, but who they are as a human being. Do they care for more pay when the raise is up? Do they not give a crap about pay at all? Do they want to be an entrepreneur at some point in time? Do they want to be able to have a thriving career and build a community? Like, what are the things that they care most about? Find it out, write it down, and try to find a way to help that person achieve their dream. And if you help them achieve their dream, they will help you achieve yours.
No, that's it was solid words, man. Solid words for sure. Couldn't say it better myself. So this is the time on the show where I kind of like feel free to flip the mic over and tell us a bit more about yourself, where we can find you. Give yourself a shameless plug. Give Penji a shameless plug.
Absolutely, I have no problem doing that.
and also, you do have your own podcast as well, so feel free to quickly mention about that too.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, I'd say I want to just focus all the attention and energy on the one thing that is near and dear to my heart, the thing that I wake up every single morning, to do and to focus on, and that's Penji. So if anybody needs a reliable and dependable design team, they need something designed for them, whether it's a logo to a business card, marketing materials, social content, even app and web design. We would love to be able to earn your business. We primarily help agencies and marketing teams and small businesses with all of their graphic design needs. So we do unlimited graphic design for $349 a month. That's the starting rate, $349 a month. You can head over to penji.co. It's penji.co.
Awesome. For the audience, as always, make this easy for you guys. All this is going to be in the show notes, including the website with, feel free to swing by and give them a shot. I will fully admit that I'm in the website, I'm checking things out, and yeah, there's a lot of great work and a lot of great service that these guys have to offer. Johnathan, man, it was great having you on. Thanks for taking your time out of your schedule, your busy schedule. No doubt in my mind, Penji is on, no, it's not en route to being a success. It's definitely is becoming, is a success, I should say. So good for you and your leadership and your leadership team that's there and the company culture that you're making and helping out, especially helping out these inner city kids and getting them on the right path.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So for the audience out there, for the listener there, don't go away. Of course, I always got my key takeaways for my interview from today's episode. So stick by for another 30 seconds, if not less. All right, man. Take care, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that interview there with Johnathan. What a great show, eh? What a great guy, and definitely a lot of lessons in there. And can't you feel the passion he has for his company and his organization and just leading that? I totally felt it just coming through the screen at me when I did the interview with him. Anyway, I digress. A few key takeaways for you today. And the first one is he and I are very much on the same page of being told something can't work. Well, you know what? Being told you can't do something just means I'm going to go out and find a way to make it work. And that is leadership, okay? Often at times, you would tell no, that's, it can't be done, or it's not reasonable, etc. All these excuses for not being able to achieve your vision. But you know what? As leaders, you have to enable your people and find a way to make it work, okay? No is just an easy answer. It's an easy way out. Too many people rely on it. So, me personally, when I get told something don't work or something can't work, well, that's just motivation and fuel on the fire for me to find a way to make it work. The second thing I wanted to touch base on was the whole fearless feedback, right? When you're in a small team, any type of team really, you have to have a environment which allows for people to communicate and say and sort things out. And if things are going off the rails, someone needs to be able to step up and say, hey, this is going off the rails. Or if two people are just getting at each other, they have to be able to figure that out and sort it out for the betterment of the team and the organization. So I love that fearless feedback that he talked about. And then the final thing, which I really truly loved, was that whole accountability system that Dave developed at Penji. I thought it was great. And you don't need to have something as in depth as what they have, but you need something that keeps you on track, you and your team on track on how you are going about your day and achieving your goals. Because it is too easy for you to sit there at work and surf Facebook all day, right? But the results are not getting done. If the results aren't getting done, then your team is suffering, and then your organization suffer, and in the end, you know what? You're not going to have an organization, period. So, the whole accountability system, I thought it was great, and I think every organization needs one. Now, it doesn't need to be as in-depth as the one in Penji. No, not at all. But you need something that works for you and your organization. And what that looks like, well, that depends on you guys. Awesome, folks. So you made it to the end of the episode. Congratulations. And for that, we have a special gift for you between Johnathan and I. So if you go to penji.co, again, that's penji.co, and if you sign up for their services, we have a great coupon code for you. You're going to get 10% off. That's $35 off your monthly fee. And this isn't a one-time deal. No, this is every month that you're with them, you're going to get 10% off or $35 off. So if you just put in MFL, as in Moving Forward Leadership 10, you're going to get that code, okay? Again, that is MFL 10, and you're going to get that 10% off of Penji services. Awesome. So check it out. And let me know if you signed up or not, because I would just love to know personally, because I think they're great. Again, they are a sponsor of the show, so many thanks to them in helping me and helping everybody else out there. Okay, folks, that's all I got for today. As always, keep pushing, keep trying, keep moving forward. Take care now.